Hello everyone, welcome back to the Cozy Chair. Do you remember when we talked about girls? Well, some girls like to be fancy. They like to dress up and play fancy and talk fancy, pretend fancy. And so tonight I am going to read Fancy Nancy. Fancy Nancy has lots of adventures and lots of books, but this one was picked by Lolly. Hello, Lolly. I hope you like this book. This one is Fancy Nancy, Aspiring Artist. It's by Jane O'Connor and Robin Price Glaser, and I hope you like it. Oh, she's so sad. Look at her waving goodbye. This is on Sunday. See, Sunday. It's spring vacation, so I should be ecstatic, joyous, carefree. Those are all fancy words for happy. But I'm not. Bree and her family just left for New York City, the glamour capital of the world. Remember, Fancy Nancy loves glamour, so she wishes she was in New York City. My mom knows I'm a little glum, which is sad in a fancy way. So when she comes back from the grocery shopping, she has treats. A big box of crayons for my sister and a set of glitter markers for me. What a splendid parent my mother is. While I'm doodling with my new markers, inspiration strikes. That means I get a great idea. I will turn my clubhouse into an art studio and spend my vacation making gorgeous works of art. Doodles don't really count as art, but I get some of my most splendid ideas while doodling. Besides some supplies, that's fancy for markers, paints, and a paper, all you need in an art studio is an artist. I'm wearing a smock and a beret. That's French for cap. Don't you think my beret makes me look more talented? My sister can only scribble, even though scribbling doesn't count as real art. I tell her how beautiful her pictures are. In the afternoon, I have a dance class. All over the studio are posters of ballerinas by a French artist named Edgar Degas. While I'm pliéing, suddenly, inspiration strikes. I return to my art studio and draw beautiful ballerinas, just like Edgar Degas did. Did you notice who all the ballerinas look like? Look at her pictures. Can you tell who those ballerinas are? Of course, they're Fancy Nancy. Do you see this picture up here by Edgar Degas? He has a lot of those really nice paintings of ballerinas. Monday. Today I tell Miss Devine about my art studio. Her favorite artist is Claude Monet. She tells me he didn't like to work in a studio. He loves painting outdoors, even in winter. He'd wear 3 coats and a blanket to keep from freezing. Brr! Suddenly, inspiration strikes again. I would love to paint outdoors in your garden, just like Claude Monet. It was sunny when I painted this. I call it Tulips in the Wind. Then some clouds came, and I had to use darker colors to paint the same flowers. I call this More Tulips in the Wind. Tuesday. I invite my friend Lionel over today. He can act like a real goofball, but he is the most talented artist in our class. His faces are so good, nobody does noses like Lionel. Not to brag, but I am the second most talented. You can ask anybody. Here is a portrait Lionel drew of me. A portrait is a picture of someone's face. Hee hee, I didn't really have a mustache or a goatee. That's fancy for a short beard. Oh, Lionel, he can just be such a goofball. Then Lionel poses for me, but he keeps making crazy faces. Lionel is such a goofball. Here is a joke Lionel told me. What color is a burp? Purple. Wednesday. Ooh la la! A letter from Bree. I adore getting mail, don't you? Look what she did on the back of the envelope. She wrote, Swak. That means sealed with a kiss. Can you see her? She's so excited to get that letter. We all love getting mail, don't we? Here is the front of the card Bree sent. She went to a world-famous museum where she saw this picture by Henri Matisse. He made it from pieces of colored paper that he cut out. Inspiration strikes once more. I get construction paper, glue, and scissors, and voila! I make a picture like Henri Matisse did. Even though wings on real butterflies always match, mine have 2 different wings. Artists are allowed to break rules. I love that butterfly thing she's making. That collage with all of her colored paper. Thursday. Even though I have been in the studio for hours, everything I draw today stinks. My mom comes in to tell me that Lionel's grandma called. She's taking him to a 3D movie and he wants you to come. Alas, I can't go, I say. I'm waiting for inspiration to strike. Nancy, it's wonderful to be dedicated. That means working really hard. My mom tells me, but take a break. It will get your creative juices flowing again. My mother knows I listen better when she uses fancy words. Can you buy creative juice? No, it's just a fancy phrase for imagination. Like, wouldn't that be funny if we could get creative juice? I would definitely drink creative juice if there was some. My mom was right. After I get home, my creative juices are flowing. The movie was about really weird fish that live in the bottom of the ocean. Mine are imaginary. That means I made them up. There's a tiara fish, and a chandelier fish, and a tutu fish. Those are what Fancy Nancy would come up with, right? Friday. For a special treat, my dad has taken us to the art museum. Lionel comes too. On the way over, he pretends to be car sick. My dad starts to pull over, but I explain that Lionel is just being a goofball. At the museum, there is a real painting by Claude Monet. I wish I knew a fancy word for how it makes me feel. All I can say is that the colors make my eyes happy, and my heart happy too. Lionel says he likes this painting. At first I think he's kidding. It's just a big bunch of black drips and blobs, but the harder I look, the more interesting it is. Some parts look lacy. One part is almost like a spider web. My dad really likes it too. Can you see that one? That one's by Jackson Pollock. My dad tells us that he once saw a movie about the artist Jackson Pollock. He put the canvas on the floor and poured on paint straight from the can. He also used paint sticks to make dribbles and all kinds of patterns. Inspiration strikes again. I turn to Lionel. We could make a big painting like Jackson Pollock. We'll do it tomorrow when Bree is back. Saturday! Yay, look who's back! At last, Bree and I are reunited. That's fancy for being together again. I tell her it's officially Jackson Pollock Day. Not really. But doesn't it sound important? My parents spread out a sheet in the backyard and find leftover cans of house paint. We wear old clothes, put on hip-hop music for inspiration, and then, ooh la la, we fling and flick paint. We make swirls and splatters, we drip and dribble. We are painting and dancing all at the same time. Jackson Pollock was a very serious professional artist, but making a painting this way is silly and fun. Oh, that looks like so much fun, doesn't it? Oh, they are just having such a great time. Later, I show Bree all of my art from this week. She shows me her sketches from New York City. My mom tells Lionel to stop sticking carrot sticks up his nose. Then she says, you have so much art, you could have an art show. What a splendid idea! We hang all our artwork on the clothesline. We make a sign for the front yard announcing the exhibit. Exhibit is a fancy word for show. Come see the work of local artists. Free refreshments Sunday from 2 to 3. Sunday. Our art exhibit is a smashing success. That's a fancy word to say everyone has a good time and tells us how talented we are. Look at all their art hanging all over the backyard. And Mom and Dad are there, Bree is there, Miss Devine is there. This looks like such a fun thing to do. I give Miss Devine one of the paintings. I did it in her garden. I tell her, I can't believe how tired my hands are from all the art I made this week. Miss Devine says that she knows the perfect remedy for aching artist hands. A manicure. Of course she gets something fancy at the end. That Fancy Nancy, look at her, in her smock and her beret. She was a fun little artist. I hope someday when you have some extra time, you pull out your paints or you pull out your markers and you make some really fun designs. And then you can send me a picture at thecozychairclub@gmail.com. I hope you enjoyed this book,